Good evening, and welcome to Sports 101, the show that discusses sport beyond the X's and O's. Here at Sport 101, we expand our conversation to include the history, past, as well as the present, and we look at things in the making. We also look at the game from a people, places, and cultural perspective. I'm your host, Jamar Harp. Be sure to follow me on social media, on Twitter at Coach_Harp412, and Facebook under Jamar Harp. Please make sure you get social with Sports 101 and a litany of other shows on SportsZone Chicago by following SportsZone Chicago on social media. SportsZone Chicago can be found on Twitter at SportsZone CHI, Facebook at SportsZone Chicago, and Instagram at SportsZone Chicago. Remember, SportsZone Chicago is the world's only Black-owned sports talk app. You can watch and listen to my show and many others. Keep up with breaking sports news. If you miss something, don't worry about it. Go to YouTube and search SportsZone Chicago. You can watch all updates from there. Besides YouTube, we need everyone to subscribe to the SportsZone Chicago app. The SportsZone Chicago app can be found in the iTunes, Google Play, and Amazon stores. Now I would like to talk about this week's show, which is entitled The American Athletic Conference Expansion. As you can see right here, this is a logo from the American Athletic Conference. After the one of their big wins in a bowl game, and just like every other conference, they're trying to showcase themselves as trying to get into that Power 5 area instead of being one of the outlying conferences. So in 2021, the American Athletic Conference football season is in its 30th NCAA FBS season. The season is the 9th since the former Big East Conference dissolved and became the American Athletic Conference, in the 8th season of the college football playoff. The American is considered a member of the Group of Five, again, not Power 5, together with Conference USA, the Mid-American Conference, more commonly known as the MAC, the Mountain West Conference, and the Sun Belt Conference. In 2020, Cincinnati secured their second consecutive championship game appearance and faced Tulsa, ultimately beating them in the American Athletic Conference championship game. Last year, the American Conference had 16 participating bowl games, and the league went 1-5. So if you look at the bowl championship series every year, that kind of supposed to indicate the power of your conference. And going 1-5 doesn't indicate that your conference is strong enough to get a team in the BCS playoff. Recapping last year's bowl season, Tulane lost to Nevada 27-38 in the Idaho Potatoes Bowl. Central Florida lost to BYU 49-23 in the Boca Raton Bowl. Memphis did defeat Florida Atlantic, the lone win in the Montgomery Bowl. Houston lost to Hawaii 14-28 in the New Mexico Bowl. Tulsa lost to Mississippi State 26-28 in the Armed Forces Bowl. And that, if you can recall, that game ended in a bitch clean brawl between both teams. And in a New Year's Six Bowl, number 8 Cincinnati, who was the conference champion and the highest ranked team in the American Conference, lost an instant classic to number 9 Georgia, 21-24 in the Peach Bowl. Now, when you talk about moral victories, if you would count anything as a moral victory, this would be it right here. I want to take a quick look at the ending of this game and how Cincinnati could not capitalize, how Georgia came in and get the victory.
Wiley in motion for Cincinnati. Ritter on the sprint out, hits the corner downfield, has a man tipped up, incomplete, stops the clock with 1:34 to go, and Georgia stays alive. Number 39. They get a little pressure on Daniels underneath McIntosh. Picks up the first down at midfield, out to about the 49, the 34-yard line. First down. Daniels going to try and, he got rid of it. And the tackle stop at the 40-yard line on McIntosh again with 40 seconds to go. With his first career game-winning field goal attempt. From 54 yards out. There it is. Got it. Happy New Year, Bulldogs. Oh, wait a second. 2 seconds left, though. 2 seconds left. He got it. Bulldogs are running onto the field. There's a flag down at the 40-yard line. There's time remaining. Led by JT Daniels. Got him in field goal range. Let's see what Cincinnati can do with remaining time here. All the way down at their own 2 is where it travels to. 2 seconds to go from their own 2. Ritter is going to be sacked for the safety, and an appropriate ending for Georgia. Who else but Ojulari, who caused a fumble earlier, had a sack and another one there to punctuate 2021 as a success in the final 4 games for the Georgia Bulldogs and Kirby Smart. And Coach got some giddy up left. They're not going to get him hit the Gatorade Tower. What a finish here in the 53rd edition of the Chick-fil-A Peach Bowl in Atlanta.
All right, so in the video, basically what we saw was a key third down where the Georgia safety made a great over-the-top play on a football, causing Cincinnati to punt, and then several key third down conversions would let them allow them to get in the field goal range to attempt a 54-yard field goal. After that season, the American Conference made some changes. Houston, Central Florida, and Cincinnati have left for the Big 12, along with BYU from the West Coast Conference. BYU will start Big 12 play next year in 2022, while the American Conference teams will begin Big 12 play in approximately 2023 or 24, depending on how much money is paid out. The Big East Conference was a collegiate athletics conference which birthed the American Conference that consisted of many as 16 universities in the eastern half of the United States from 1979 to approximately 2013. In football, the former Big East or American Conference entered competition as a conference in 1991. The reason I say former is the American Conference owns the rights, so technically they're the Big East of football, while the basketball version maintained the name. But we'll talk about that later. After inviting 5 football colleges to become members of the Big East, joining 3 teams from the Big East whose football teams were competing as independents, those teams would include Boston College, Pittsburgh, and Syracuse. They formed a new Division I football league called the Big East Conference. The strength of the Big East Conference earned the Big East an automatic berth in the BCS Championship Series when it was created in 1998. So again, when they say strength of conferences, how many teams top to bottom or in the top 25? Is it just 2 teams and everybody else is just, fodder? What is the level of competition in your conference? The Big East won 2 national championships, both by the University of Miami. And between 2005 and 2012, 4 of the more successful football schools left the Big East for other conferences, starting a process that led to complete alignment of the Big East in 2013. On July 1st of 2013, the non-football playing schools, also known collectively as the Secular Catholic 7, formed a non-football playing conference that retained the name the Big East Conference. So right here in this picture, you can see the Catholic 7, which is Georgetown, Marquette, DePaul, Providence, St. John's, Seton Hall, and Villanova. If you look at all those schools, they're all located in major cities. And growing up in Big East territory, it was known, or the known unknown was that was the Mafia League, that they had a lot of influence, and particularly in basketball and gambling. Big East Game of the Week was a highlight to watch, every week, especially those Pitt Georgetown games, which was really football, basketball is the way they used to play it. But again, that's the Catholic 7 of the former Big East. The remaining 6 football playing members, 3 who had only joined the Big East in 2005, joined with 4 other schools from other conferences to become the American Athletic Conference, which is the Big East's legal successor. Those schools were Pittsburgh, Virginia Tech, Miami, Boston College, and Syracuse. They all moved to the ACC. West Virginia also left and became a member of the Big 12. The Big East was structured around basketball originally, hence the name Mafia Conference, in particular to its Catholic institutions. Support came from boosters who oftentimes had ties with organized crime, and this is why the basketball faction, many believe, retained the name of the Big East. The conference remained largely unchanged up until 1991 when it began to sponsor football, and this is when it started to get upset because, again, from its inception, the Big East was a basketball conference. So with the additions of Miami, Rutgers, Temple, Virginia Tech, and West Virginia as football-only members, it upset the basketball founders, and particularly the Catholic Seven. Rutgers and West Virginia were also offered all-sport memberships in 1995, while Virginia Tech waited in 2000 to accept that offer. Temple football was kicked out after the 2004 season due to lack of winning. Again, to keep the conference strong, they didn't want to have a proverbial loser or a bottom feeder that everyone could, go get a win off, a quote-unquote homecoming team. So Temple was kicked out after the 2004 season, but rejoined in 2012 and intended to become a full member up until 2013. The unusual structure of the Big East with the football, non-football sides led to instability in the conference. Again, this instability is due to the founders of the conference wanting to be basketball only, but caving in due to the money football was getting, but also deciding that they didn't want football and they just wanted basketball, hence why they kept the name. The wave of defection and replacement brought about the conference realignments of 2005, again in the early 2010, in the early 2000s, around 11 and 12. And that also time period revealed tension between the football sponsoring and non-football schools that led to the split in 2013. On December 15th, 2012, the Big East 7 remaining non-FBS schools, all Catholic institutions consisting of DePaul, Georgetown, Marquette, Providence, St. John's, Seton Hall, and Villanova, announced they will vote unanimously to leave the Big East Conference in 2015. The Catholic 7, by leaving, were looking for a more lucrative television deal that they could receive by remaining with the football schools. So in March of 2013, representatives of the Catholic 7, they would leave the conference in 2013, retain the Big East name, $10 million to each school, and the right to hold the basketball tournament in Madison Square Garden. So again, this is what they decided. So this is where the power and influence is coming in. Again, hence the monikers of being a quote-unquote mafia conference. The remaining 10 football-playing members started the process of selecting a new name for the conference and choosing a new site to hold its basketball tournament. So they had various names in the play, considering the American 12, which was rejected by college presidents because they didn't want to put a number or a limit to the amount of teams they could have. So in 2013, they announced the new name, the American Athletic Conference. The conference revealed that it prefers the nickname the American because it was thought AAC would cause too much confusion with the ACC. So I want to take a quick break, and when we come back, we'll continue to discuss the American Athletic Conference and its conference expansion.
Please stop and listen, because this important message may directly apply to you or someone dear to you. Several thousand African American former full-time CPS teachers were unfairly terminated starting in the mid-90s and continuing to the 2000s. If you are one of those many former CPS teachers who was unjustly terminated, or if you are the immediate relative of a now deceased unjustly terminated former CPS teacher, you may qualify to participate in a lawsuit at no upfront cost to you. Please call 773-580-7183 immediately for more information. That's 773-580-7183. Do not delay. Act today, because time is of the essence. That's 773-580-7183. 773-580-7183.
Welcome back. Again, I'm Jamar Harp, and this is Sport101, the show that discusses sport beyond the X's and O's. Here at Sports101, we talk about the game from a people, places, and cultural perspective through the lens of history, past, present, as well as in the making. Again, please get social with Sports101, Second City, Ivan Vargas's football shows, Sean and Maya in the morning, and the many other shows that SportsZone Chicago has by following SportsZone Chicago on social media. SportsZone Chicago can be found on Twitter, SportsZone CHI, Facebook, SportsZone Chicago, and Instagram at SportsZone Chicago. Subscribe to the YouTube channel to catch anything you missed by searching SportsZone Chicago, but please, more importantly, download the SportsZone Chicago app. The SportsZone Chicago app can be found in the iTunes, Google Play, and Amazon stores. So to just give you a brief update of what we were talking about before the break, we were talking about the new acquisitions of the American Athletic Conference, how it came from the Big East Conference. Again, the Big East Conference consisted of football playing schools and non-football playing schools, also known as the Catholic Seven. The Catholic Seven were DePaul University, Georgetown, Marquette, Providence, St. John's, Seton Hall, and Villanova. Ultimately, they decided to keep the name of the Big East and split, while the other football schools became known as the American Athletic Conference. Now, I would like to show you a quick video going into the next part of our segment.
In an unexpected change of heart decision by American Athletics Conference Commissioner Mike Aresco, from a week ago not being interested in extending an olive branch to the CUSA teams, it was Pete Thamel tweeted that the AAC is looking to now add 6 teams to the conference. Those teams being the Florida Atlantic Owls, Charlotte 49ers, North Texas Mean Green, UTSA Roadrunners, UAB Blazers. Yes, the team just 7 years ago shut down their football program. I'm very happy for the players in that university to rise from the ashes like Phoenix. That's amazing. Congratulations to their coach for, and the fan base for sticking with the program. Congratulations, man. That's a great comeback story. Congrats to them. And Rice. Sarah, what the hell is this? The university, not the food. Sorry about that. And the Rice out. And that is being said that applications for memberships could begin as early as this week at some point. And if it isn't apparent enough, this is clearly a maneuver to maintain a good foothold in Texas for the AAC. With the departure of Houston to the Big 12, as well as to improve their recruiting foothold across the nations for the teams in the AAC, that's a good move. This is actually a very good move. I like what they did here with the AAC. I know that the Boise, and I forgot the other team that said they were Colorado State. They said that they're staying put in the Mountain West. But yeah. But it's good for them. Good for the AAC. I'm really happy. As a Louisville fan, we came from the AAC, spent a year there, but now we're in the ACC, of course. So I kind of like to see the AAC, kind of rise up and do what is necessary to maintain the image of their conference and to improve it. But to be honest, as an out-of-state fan of North Texas football, I'm very happy to see them move up to a G5 conference. Besides the exposure, with their TV deal with ESPN, it will help them out in every way, especially financially for the athletic programs at North Texas. So I'm happy for that as an out-of-state North Texas fan. Sorry. But I can't help but wonder what happens to the Conference USA now. Do they absorb some of the Sun Belt teams like App State, Coastal Carolina, and Louisiana? Or does the Sun Belt Conference absorb CUSA? But I'm not up to date on the national perception between the Sun Belt and Conference USA. I'm just bad like that. But I'm always happy for the teams to get invited to the AAC. I'm always happy for the underdogs to get placed in a better position to excel in football. But that is going to be all for this video. If you enjoyed the video, please hit the like button. And if you like college sports like I do, hit the subscribe button, and it will greatly help out the channel. Thanks for watching, and until next time, peace.
All right, thank you so much for that video clip. So in the clip, we basically saw how the American Conference want to do similar as the SEC increases geographic footprint, at the same time adding teams that can increase the competition of its league, which thus forth seems more valuable to investors and television, so you get bigger checks per year as a member of this conference. They also talked about adding 3 teams in the state of Texas, being able to recruit in the state of Texas. Losing Houston to the Big 12 was big, as well as expanding their geographic footprint. The last part they talked about the video is ramifications with other conferences, including the Sun Belt and the Conference USA, which one was supposedly better. And again, when you look at rankings, the Sun Belt has a much better track record and wins due to Appalachian State versus Conference USA. So I would say the Sun Belt is a better conference thus far. So would Conference USA absorb the Sun Belt, or would the Sun Belt absorb Conference USA, and what will happen to the next snowball after that? So again, there's a lot of issues that impact these conferences realigning. Speaking of the American Conference, currently Cincinnati is undefeated and ranked number 2 in the nation. If you look at this picture right here, you'll see Georgia, Cincinnati, Oklahoma, Alabama, and Ohio State. Now, regardless, there's a lot of people that feel like Alabama still should be number 2. They just had a hiccup. But again, based off of records, Cincinnati is number 2 right now and has proven that they could play against Georgia. Hence, last year's game, which was won by 1 point, and then a safety at the end of the game. But again, that safety was due to positioning and alignment. They had lined up for an onside kick, and Georgia kicked it deep. Therefore, the returner had to run back and retrace the ball, and ultimately it fell dead on the 1-yard line, allowing Aziz Ojulari to get the sack in the end zone, causing the final score to be 24-21. But right now, again, Cincinnati is number 2, and if they win out, including the American Conference Championship, they should make it in to the BCS playoff. Other options would include, of course, Alabama. If they win the SEC championship, they would be in there. And then the other team would be, would the SEC championship loser go, or Ohio State, or another team like Michigan, Penn State, or Michigan State that could possibly come up and take that spot. Again, the American Conference has had success before, with Central Florida being Auburn in the Peach Bowl in 2018. Now, you remember that year, Central Florida claimed to be the national champion because they were undefeated and won their bowl game. Although they didn't win it technically, they made that claim, and it bolstered their recruiting as well as national prowess. So similar to recent losses of Cincinnati, Houston, and the aforementioned Central Florida, the American Conference is looking to poach from other leagues. If the American Conference chooses to go after media markets, it will bode well for programs like UAB, which is in Birmingham, Alabama, football craze state, and has a brand new stadium that's going to be opening this year, and has been a consistent winner since they've been reinstated under Coach Bill Clark. They also have a passionate fan base that has successfully won the fight to bring back the program after it was shut down in 2014 by raising millions of dollars and providing other types of support to bring football back. They showed their true passion. They can also look at Georgia State, which is a young team in BCS football, which is located in downtown Atlanta, and they play their games in the Credit Union Stadium, which is the former Turner Field, home of the Atlanta Braves before they moved to Marietta, and was also the 1996 Olympic Stadium. And also possible school would be Charlotte or UNC Charlotte. Charlotte is located in, obviously, Charlotte, North Carolina. The media market isn't big as Atlanta, and the 49ers program is still very young on the BCS stage. It has a coach on the rise, and Will Healy has won some big games. It hasn't finished below 500 since they started playing BCS football in 2017. Another team American Conference could consider is Liberty, who went 10-1 and finished number 17 in the top 25 last year, and is being led by Coach Hugh Freeze, who's known as one of the offensive innovators in the game. Liberty has only been an FBS program since 2018, but hasn't finished below 500 since 2005, when it went 1-11 as a member of the Big South Conference and the FCS, also known as 1AA. Coastal Carolina could also be a solid option. The Chanticleers went 11-1 last year in its fourth season in BCS, and has one of the most sought-after coaches in the country, Jamie Chadwell. And if you remember last year, they had that great victory against BYU at home when BYU was running through everybody else, literally with their run game and their offense and defensive fronts. The American Conference can also consider fellow Sunbelt schools, Appalachian State and Louisiana and Lafayette, who also can fit the bill and are the class of the Sunbelt Conference, who've been meeting in the championship the last few years. Neither team, however, is in a major media market, but the history of the Mountaineers is well chronicled going back to their FCS days and his win against Michigan, as well as other BCS wins they've accumulated and their rise to the BCS level, and the Raging Cajuns, who have played in every Sunbelt game since its inception in 2018. Remember, every Sunbelt championship since 2018 has been Appalachian State or Louisiana Lafayette. Now let's look at what's really happening in American Athletic Conference and its nationwide expansion plan. The American Conference has limited itself to Eastern and Central time zones, but now wants to gain a larger footprint in the Southeast as well as in Texas. Does it have to stay that way? I don't think so, and I think they can grow, and obviously by the video that we saw, it will be. The American Athletic Conference can potentially expand and become a national brand by poaching Group of 5 power Boise State away from the Mountain West, but we saw that Boise State has declined. The Broncos have 17 double-digit wins since 1999, and have finished in the top 25 13 times since 2002, and have been to the Fiesta Bowl 3 times, including the epic win over Oklahoma. It also won't hurt to look at California and maybe looking at San Diego State, which would check off several boxes. The Aztecs are in the major media market, have double-digit win seasons for the last 6 years, and is opening a new on-campus stadium in 2022. If the American Conference can add these teams now or in the future, it would establish literally an American footprint and be a national brand. The American Conference could add 6 new teams, however, recently, which sources confirmed this week. These new teams joining the American Conference are Charlotte, Florida Atlantic, North Texas, Rice, Alabama Birmingham, and Texas San Antonio, as the conference is going to likely accept all these applications as soon as they are received. This move comes a few weeks after the American Conference was turned down by 4 Mountain West schools, which are Air Force, Boise State, Colorado State, and San Diego State. The schools turned them down, citing travel distance and monetary benefit, meaning it's not as much as a monetary benefit versus staying in the Mountain West. It also comes less than a week after Conference USA sent a letter to the American Conference asking to open a dialogue about future geographical reorganization of both conferences, basically a merger of 2 conferences. Instead, the American Conference acted quickly and rated Conference USA for 6 schools. The American Conference, this move came as the American Conference is set to lose Cincinnati, Houston, and again Central Florida to the Big 12 Conference up until 2023. The move was also reminiscent of a conference realignment almost a decade ago when America took 7 schools from Conference USA. These schools are East Carolina, Houston, Memphis, Southern Methodist, Tulane, Tulsa, and Central Florida. If the 6 new schools are accepted, which they will be, that would mean 12 of the 14 American Conference schools will be former Conference USA members. and the American Conference would have taken 13 schools from Conference USA in less than 10 years. They also did this due to geographic strategy, as we recently stated. When the Mountain West announced it would stick together, Commissioner Craig Thompson said expansion would be on the table, and multiple people in the Mountain West believe Texas would be a smart place to go to get their television market spread out from the West Coast all the way to Texas. In response, people in the American Conference also believe their league should go big and add 6 or 8 teams, including most of the remaining Group of 5 schools in Texas, excluding Texas El Paso and Texas State. The American Conference recently moved to back this up. They moved their conference headquarters to Dallas. This will give them a stronger footprint in the state of Texas while keeping the Mountain West out. Commissioner Mike Oresco has always been focused on the league's media rights deals with ESPN, being a former administrator in the Big East Conference. He's familiar with that, which is currently paying the conference members around $6 million annually. He would like this deal to increase in the teens. Hopefully, eventually getting to $20 million annually. Right now, the $6 million is more than any Group of 5 league, but is expected to decrease with the loss of 3 most popular schools. So again, the addition of these 6 schools, they want to increase this $6 million payout to around $15 to $20 million. Going big will further dilute those payouts, but multiple sources said it's possible that the American Conference could offer lower revenue shares to the 6 new members as a way to keep the remaining 8 schools happy. Now, the 6 new schools that are getting lower revenue shares will be given benefits in other areas so they can make up on that loss of revenue. The move will continue also a chain of realignment as the Sun Belt Conference could look to merge with Conference USA or add schools like Southern Mississippi, or Marshall. This potential expansion could also take the American Conference to 14 teams in both football and basketball. Navy is a football-only member of the American Conference, while Wichita State does not have a football program. While adding these new teams, the American Conference will not be still considered a Power 5 conference and will have to hope and wish to be added to the BCS playoff if they're able to have a team to go through undefeated. Remember, being in the Group of 5, not Power 5, the only way you can get into the playoff is going undefeated and having some of those Power 5 conferences lose a game or two or have multiple teams with 1 loss. So potentially you can be voted in because you would be undefeated, and it'd be hard to leave an undefeated team out. That's one of the reasons Notre Dame gets in every year, and that's also one of the strong advocates that people complain about because Notre Dame gets blew out every year. In closing, though, I'd like to talk about these 3 objectives. Basically, we all know money runs collegiate sports, particularly football in the modern era. We also want to look at, in order to get more money for facilities and all these things needed to get the top athletes. Again, with name, image, and likeness, I can see most schools that funneled money underneath the table can now use name, image, and likeness to legally pay their players. So again, there's still going to be a competition for recruiting, high-profile coaches, and different things that make their school more visible. So that's why all these schools are fighting to realign and get more revenue sharing. Due to this, will we see more schools buying private planes, hiring teachers just for specific sports, since the conference has a nationwide footprint that they're gone for a week at a time? Will students miss more class? Will it be more virtual learning? Will all these things change the nature of the quote-unquote student athlete due to college football and athletic realignment? And more importantly, ultimately, will we see college football teams leave the NCAA model altogether and go to a format where they can just pay players and be a semi-pro league to the National Football League and other professional leagues across the continent as well as the world? I want to thank everyone for tuning in this week's episode of Sports 101. I'm your host, Jamar Harp. Be sure to follow me on Twitter at Coach_Harp412 and Facebook under Jamar Harp. Please get social with SportsZone Chicago and the litany of other shows on Sports 101 by following the SportsZone Chicago on social media at Twitter at SportsZone CHI, Facebook at SportsZone Chicago, and Instagram at SportsZone Chicago. Remember, SportsZone Chicago is the world's only Black-owned sports talk app, so we need everyone to subscribe so we can do bigger and better things, provide greater content to our subscribers. Please subscribe to the YouTube channel, search SportsZone Chicago, but more importantly, download the SportsZone Chicago app. The SportsZone Chicago app can be found in the iTunes, Google Play, and Amazon stores. Thank you for tuning in. I will see you next week on our normally scheduled time, 8 p.m. Central, 9 p.m. Eastern. Again, this is Jamar Harp with Sports 101, and I'm gone.